uniform. Just cause I'm from the CPT, fuck police are afraid of me. A young nigga on the warpath, and when I finish, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Those cops dying in LA. Yo, Dre, I got something to say. Police. Lights start flashing behind me, but they're scared of a nigga, so they mace me to blind me. But that shit don't work, I just laugh, because it gives them a head not to step in my path. With police, I'm saying, fuck you, punk. Read my rights and shit, it's all junk. Pulling out a silly club, so you stand with a big ass badge and a gun in your hand. But take off the gun so you can see what's up, and we'll go at it, punk, and I'ma fuck you up. Fuck the police.
All right. So, as we were saying,
yeah. In the immortal words of the poets,
fuck the police. So the situation that I want to draw your attention to this evening, so I think that's a great song because it's basically some people of color saying that when the police harass them, they aren't going to take any shit.
Right.
I mean, in a sort of poetic sense, they're saying that, you know, fuck the police. If you're trying to fuck with me, I'm going to fuck with you because that's the way it should be. We should all...
Because your authority is not recognized in Fort Kick-Ass.
We should all question the legitimacy and the authority of the law enforcement apparatus that exists today.
Yeah.
Case in point, North Carolina yesterday.
Those
Sunday.
wacky Carolinians.
So
called Carolinians, I think that is.
I could see that.
Anyway.
Okay, so September 14th, a couple days ago,
3 days ago.
24-year-old black guy who was a football player for Texas A&M, big black guy.
He's a football player for A&M?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, if he was an A&M player, I would think there might be more attention around this. Anyway, that's a big...
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, false alarm. Florida A&M.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Big
I was
difference.
like, this would be in the national news, man.
I don't know football or
Fair
college sports at all, really.
Fair
so
enough. I only know Texas A&M because everyone does.
So he's a football player, 24 years old, just graduated pretty recently, moved to North Carolina to live with his fiance. He got in a car accident on a sort of a deserted sort of backcountry road.
Okay.
His car is fucked, and he's severely injured. He gets out of his car by kicking the back window out, because that was the only way he could get out.
All right.
And so he crawls out the back window of his car and goes to the nearest house, and it's like, hey, call 911. I need an ambulance. I'm all messed up.
Yeah.
And the lady in the house is like, oh shit, there's some big black guy pounding on my door. I better set off my security system and call 911. And so a number of police officers...
People are scary.
A number of police officers show up, and he sees the lights, and he's like, finally, some help, I can get some help. And he starts going towards them, and one officer fires 12 shots, 10 of them hit him.
Fuck. 12 shots?
12 shots.
Was it Shaquille O'Neal?
No, it was just some guy, Jonathan Farrell, 24 years old. Died on the scene. He was shot. He had 10 bullet wounds. The officer shot 12 shots. And realizing that this sort of thing happens all the fucking time in this country, and that the larger populace is realizing that this happens all the fucking time in this country, the police department was smart enough, politically savvy enough to immediately press manslaughter charges against the cop who did it.
Manslaughter
Not
charges.
not murder. Not.
So they're saying he accidentally fired his gun 12 times.
Right.
Okay.
He accidentally fired his gun 12 times, while the other 3 officers on the scene didn't feel the need to draw their guns. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So typical weekend. I'm making it a point to just sort of do a quick search and get the like one or two cases of really blatant, really fucked up police shit that they do all the time. Before I come in, like maybe Monday, do a quick search of like what's the new fucked up shit the pigs have done.
Right.
And this was the one that jumped out at me.
Can't imagine why.
Right. Well, I mean, it can be on the Book of Faces.
Yeah. I mean, the saddest part about this is there were probably a lot of others to choose from. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that happens all the fucking time.
Yeah, all the time. And looking at where this case will be in another year and a half, we can look at a case here in Arizona, in Phoenix, that was decided this morning, of a cop. What's his name? Chrisman. Chrisman.
Chris Man.
Chris Mann's good Christian name, I think.
Yeah.
October 2010, he was inside this guy, Daniel Rodriguez, age 29. He was
inside him?
Inside his house. Inside this guy, Daniel Rodriguez, age 29's house.
Because there's nothing wrong with that.
And his partner, the Chrisman's partner, left.
He was inside.
Left to go get some backup because the guy was being sort of resistive. Didn't want to go. For whatever reason I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to go with the police, but he didn't. and so the partner went outside testifying that he didn't feel like he was in any danger at all.
Okay.
However, Chrisman decided that it would be a good idea to shoot dead Daniel Rodriguez, age 29, and his pit bull because.
And
really.
shoot the dog too.
Shoot the guy and his dog. And so the decision today, the jury has decided that they can't convict him on any of the 3 charges that were brought against him.
This is the cop. Yeah.
The cop, he killed an unarmed guy and his dog after the partner said he felt like he was in no danger at all. Because, he's a cop and we got to cut him some slack.
Yeah, he's got a stressful job, man. Stressful job as hell. He's got all the, you walk down the street and there's just like black people everywhere. And if they're not black, they're Hispanic. You have any idea how much discrimination the average cop has to cram into his workday?
Yeah, I mean, there is no shortage of people he's got to assault and like intimidate and search for no good reason and question and harass. Like he is constantly working.
There's an opinion article coming out in the next issue of the Lumberjack, NAU student newspaper. And it's about Trayvon Martin. It's about, I guess, our local observatory, Lowell Observatory, wants to name an asteroid after Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah, and this particular writer, who I is a friend, and I like him a great deal. He has a problem with this, and one of the things he wrote in the article was that the conversation about the Trayvon Martin killing should have been about gun control and not race.
Oh, man, that hurts.
He said race was not a factor. He didn't go out and say this quite, but he basically said race doesn't matter in the Trayvon Martin case because Zimmerman is Hispanic.
Oh, that's just painful.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I know. It physically hurt me when I read it. I don't mind telling you. It was like, like punch in the gut. And it's like, man, come on now. This is. And then there was this other story. I don't know if you heard about this. But an Indian woman just won Miss America.
Right.
And the tweets that have been coming out?
I haven't heard much about the tweets. I heard a comedian was like, let's not be racist while we're objectifying women.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, all kinds of shit coming out. Oh, yeah, they made the era Miss America. What is this country coming to? Oh, what, less than a week after 9/11? Fuck you. You just slap in the face all the family. I'm like, people.
First of all, India.
Yeah, first of all, what are you talking about? This is not an Arabic person. It's not even a Semitic person. It's an Indian person. And second of all, so happy racism is over in this country. So happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the complexities of race in this country, it's it's one of the like guiding principles of our country.
It is one of the fundamental things that people think about, especially older people in this country, and that's no slight on older people, but, you know, a lot of older folks were raised with significantly more racist views than younger folks. They just were. And, you know, younger folks are being indoctrinated too, because you got, you know, they want to what indoctrinated is what I just said. I just want to point that out.
Well done, like a radio pro.
It's right. But, you know, now the young kids got fucking Fox News, and they can, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's
and the cops are the worst about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're
it.
indoctrinated into that whole system of thinking, of classifying people, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what they do, is they classify people and judge how dangerous they are. And in a criminal system that targets people of color and harasses them more often, searches them more often, thinks of them as criminals more often, whoa, they get found, they get charged with more criminal activity. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
And the murderers in question get manslaughter if they get anything.
Right. And we will continue talking about this every single week for the next year. But moving on to the subject of tonight's show. So last week.
Sorry.
Last week, after the big broadcast, I finally was able to get some video footage, and I was able to record the whole show, and I put it on YouTube in 2 parts, and it was a big hassle, but I finally got the first part up, finally got the second part up. By the time the second half of the show was posted on YouTube, the first half of the show was flagged for copyright violation.
Nice.
And so I thought we might talk a little bit about copyright tonight, I guess, for approximately, I don't know, 11 minutes.
12 minutes, yeah. I'm sorry, I've been going off too much. This is really your show. I should stop talking.
No, it's great. I like to hear different opinions and just sort of talk about this stuff, because it's really important. But I have a theme song sort of about the philosophy, it relates very much to my personal philosophy about copyright.
All right, let's do it.
You gotta say.
Oh, not that one.
Copying is not theft. Stealing a thing leaves one less left. Copying, it makes one thing more. That's what copying's for. Copying is not theft. If I copy yours, you have it too. One for me and one for you. That's what copies can do. If I steal your bicycle, you have to take the bus. But if I just copy it, there's one for each of us. Making more of a thing, that is what we call copying. Sharing ideas with everyone, that's why copying is fun.
Yeah, so that's sort of how I feel about copyright.
It's fun. Copying's fun.
Like the sort of basic principles of if I'm stealing something, then there's less of that thing, whereas if I'm copying it, there is more of it. In researching sort of where to go with this discussion tonight, I ran into some like really good sort of talks by an author, Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar.
I'm pretty sure you've heard of him. He's a big fan of. He's got a lot of videos put out by a group called Question Copyright. Mm-hmm. Basically stating that he got really pissed off when people on the internet started sharing his shit, because he felt like he was being robbed, right? Like they're stealing his work and giving it away for free.
Right.
And then he found out that the more of his stuff got shared, the more of his stuff got purchased. And so now he convinced his publisher to put out one of his books for free for a month.
Do you know which one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
His big popular one.
That's
the big one that everybody's heard of that I haven't read yet.
He's got several. One's not standing out in my mind as being more popular than several others.
Anyway, so he got his publisher to put out his most popular one online for free for anyone to download, to copy, to print, to do whatever the hell they wanted to with it.
Mm-hmm.
and his sales doubled, or I think it was 300% of sales the month after he did that versus the month before he did that.
Wow.
300%.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's sort of, it's a complicated reality, but
People are still spending money on your shit.
yeah. And
Like, yeah.
so the copyright infringement sort of thing that I got from YouTube was a bunch of bullshit, and it relates more to the realities of copyright, not sort of the ideals of sort of, oh well, if we share shit, people will buy more of it. Like, all that stuff is irrelevant to the people that actually have the power to actually do anything. People that are actually in power, primarily large corporations, publishing companies, and
Sure.
and music companies. They've gotten the copyright laws rewritten. So stepping back a few steps, in order to publish or print anything, it's really, really, really difficult to keep the rights to the thing that you produced. If you want to print a book, you send your manuscript to a publisher. The publisher, if they like it, they'll send you a contract saying, we own the rights to this, but we'll give you this much money every time it sells. And so through this process, and the same with music, and the same with movies, basically, if you want to get your thing spread to a large audience, and this is becoming less true with the internet, but it is still very much true.
Mm-hmm.
If you want your creative work to go out to a large audience, you have to give your creative work and all rights to it to a large, evil, faceless corporation.
Right.
Those large, evil, faceless corporations have rewritten the copyright laws but through purchasing congressmen and senators and
All the things they do.
these large companies have gotten the copyright extended from the initial 28 years from the date of creation, which is reasonable, right? You got 28 years to make all the money you need off of whatever you make.
Sure. I can see that.
That's a good chunk of a lifetime. You're probably an adult when you do your greatest work.
Right, yeah.
So you're retiring when your greatest work goes into the public domain.
Sure.
That's reasonable to me for the purpose stated in the Constitution of promoting the arts and sciences.
Yeah.
So the 28 years from the date you create it has changed to 70 years from the day the creator died. And the sort of the argument is that people will create less stuff and publishers will publish less stuff if they can only have exclusive rights to it for 30 years or 80 years or 100 years. They want to have exclusive rights to whatever they purchase, right? Because the people that are actually owning the copyrights aren't the creators anymore.
Right.
The people creating things don't own the copyrights. The people publishing and distributing the things own the copyrights for the most part. And so those companies just feel like it would be not in their interest to produce anything at all of use unless they have exclusive rights to it for 100 years. Which, to me, I mean, I really wanted to spend a good, 20 minutes or half an hour on this.
Yeah, we got carried away.
But, yeah, I got carried away. We got carried away. But just sort of like
come back to it next week.
The quick summary. Oh, maybe we should come back to it later in the semester also, because I want to talk about plagiarism.
Okay.
Which is another aspect of the same basic legal principles of intellectual property, things that you own because you thought them up.
Have you ever seen? I don't mean to digress again, but have you ever seen the movie Sita Sings the Blues?
I have not, although it shows up a lot in a YouTube search for copyright.
I'll bet it does, because the one of the things the director and creator of that film wanted to do is use it's like a retelling of Indian mythology, like a mythological tale from India, and but also she works in it's like from the female character's perspective, and she at certain points the female character breaks off from the story and breaks into song. And the creator wanted to use these songs by this one singer from the 20s. And she had this huge fight over the rights to the songs. And eventually she was forced to sign this horrible agreement where they said, basically the agreement said, all right, for every cent or dollar you make off this movie, we get, I don't know, $500,000 or some bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she was like, right on, cool, sign the contract. Put the movie online for free. Didn't make a single cent off of it, and neither did they.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big fuck you to the copyright holders.
Yeah,
there.
and you can still find it. Just Google "See Those Things in the Blues." You can watch it for free online.
It's getting. We are having more. I mean, especially with the internet technology that exists today, and the ability to do these like crowdsourcing and sort of alternative ways of publishing your information. It's becoming slightly not impossible to get your stuff out to a moderately sizable population without going to one of these major conglomerates, but it's really, really fucking difficult. And so what's happening is that this system is just a big monster, and it's being applied in all these different ways nobody's ever thought it should be. For example, there are people copyrighting genes.
Yes.
Like the DNA of living organisms.
Thanks, Monsanto.
So if I grow some corn and somebody like 5 miles away grows some copyrighted corn and some pollen goes to my corn, I can be sued because my corn has the DNA from the corn 5 miles away. Like committing crimes that are just sort of really abstract.
You patent
and
a gene.
nonsensical. And yeah, patenting life like a natural process is just nonsense. And
makes me want to go on a shooting rampage. I don't mind telling you.
I mean, ultimately, like there's this like interconnected system of oppression that exists within this like institutional sort of implementation of these quote unquote property rights to things that shouldn't ever be considered property, and or to things that should maybe theoretically be protected somewhat.
Yeah, but
I mean, the copyright law that we have today started in 1710 because people were writing shit because most people wrote on a piece of paper with a pen.
On a what with a what?
Piece of paper with a pen at the time.
That's crazy.
And people could take that and then make carved plates out of wood, actually,
right.
And then print mass quantities of them.
Sure.
And anybody could print anything. And so she was concerned that people would stop writing things, and she was pissed off because some of her friends were writing things that she thought was really great, and the whole country had copies of, but her friends didn't get any benefit from. So the Queen was like, you know what, if you're going to print something, you need to have permission from the person who wrote it, because my friends are writing shit and they're not getting paid for it. And that's 1710, and that's kind of like reasonable given the technology and the reality at the time.
Might do with an update.
Ultimately, Thomas Jefferson was a huge fan of copyright.
Yeah.
He was a huge fan of raping his slaves as well.
I was about to say, he was a huge fan of slavery, too.
But, I mean, a lot of those ideas came. There were several copyright laws in states that were implemented before the Constitution was written, during the, Articles of Confederacy times.
Sure.
And it's sort of got a long-standing tradition here, and there is some reasonable argument that if I come up with something really fucking brilliant,
this show,
for example, and say somebody else wants to do the exact same thing, they should at least give me some credit for it. And if they make a shit ton of money off of something that I did, I'm less likely to make another badass show in the future. Which, I mean, I don't know that I buy that. Like, if I'm gonna be an inventor, I'm gonna invent shit because I like inventing shit.
I mean, yeah.
I'm a writer, so I'm gonna write. Like, that's it.
I have a newsflash for the people who run the copyright law, as someone who was once an aspiring writer and knows a great deal. Writers don't do it for the money, people. Because if they do, they're stupid.
They're in a lot of trouble because there
trouble.
Really is no money for writers out there.
Yeah, you're not, dude. Like, whatever you write is going to be torrented, especially now. But
even before.
But even before, that's not why people write.
Yeah, I was a writing major at the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to
creative writing.
Creative writing.
As was I briefly.
Spoke to a number of professors and grad students, and if you're lucky, you'll get something published in a magazine or on an on a website, or maybe in theory get a book published. And if that book sells reasonably well, you might live for 6 months off of what you make.
This whole idea,
Like you might live off of your first bestseller long enough to write your second bestseller.
right?
Like that's how much money you're likely to make, unless you write like 30 bestsellers in a year, in which case you're saving up money and you can dictate the sort of what your contract looks like, because publishers are more likely to give you more if you've already got a lot.
I
But-
completely agree.
There's no money.
No, there's no
You
money. in
might
it.
get a couple $100 here and there.
People, this whole idea that people only do things, you will only get someone to do something if you pay them for it, if you compensate them for it, if they get some monetary, financial, tangible value out of it, like something physical, coins and dollars and credit, then that's the only reason they'll do something. Come on, man. We just had a fucking local Flagstaff wrestling show this past weekend. I had 2 friends wrestling in that show. They beat the fuck out of each other for 10 minutes for the entertainment of like 50 people. You think they got paid?
Not a penny.
No. Come on now. That's not what people do these things.
So I think we'll definitely plan on getting back to copyright and
And plagiarism.
plagiarism, because that's very school specific. Possibly next week. No guarantees. I had some other ideas for next week, but yeah, why not? Let's do it. Plagiarism next week.
Okay.
Be here.
You want to do it next week?
Be here and be ready to cite your sources.
You've been, You've
So-
been listening to Late Night Law Review here on KJAK Radio, KJAK 1680 AM Flagstaff. We are, Skylar Say here is going to be here every Tuesday evening from 10 to 11, breaking down all the latest bullshit from the courts and from the cops and all the bullshit that from college students might need to go about their successful college careers. I have joined him every show so far, and I think that'll probably continue at least for the foreseeable future. Until he kicks me out of here because I talk too much, and because of me, he couldn't talk about plagiarism today. So,
Yeah, so
we'll
don't
talk about
forget-
plagiarism next week.
So don't forget to join us on soundtap.com
Mm-hmm.
/KJAC.
That's right.
Or download the SoundTap app for
That's
your
right.
smart smart device, because
call, buddy.
that's the easiest way to do it. So we're gonna go out tonight with a song. You might not catch all the legal references, but they're in there. Cheers.